and we are live on our 6th episode of umbraCoffee. And today we have a Pete Duncanson with us. Hi, Pete.
Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Yeah, we're fine. We're in a new year. We are not new. We're still the same. We didn't change. We will continue this series, and we hope to have more of you viewing it, and hope that we will save a lot of time for you gathering all the Umbraco news and stuff related with Umbraco, which has been announced or done in the past week. And we have some news this week, and maybe
not
let's
too
start
much
with...
because not too much news because it's first week of January. Twitter seemed dead on Tuesday.
Yeah, but
there's no one
there
around.
are other social medias. Social medias, and I said it on the past episode. I was following Umbraco, and not only Umbraco, all of the main community members on different social medias, and I've spotted one thing. And New Year is as I've named this episode, a wind of changes. So there's a lot of changes, and Umbraco has 3 new employees in a D team. So it's a development team, and it's a Nikolai, Christian, and Jacob. And Jacob become a new CTO of Umbraco.
I missed that announcement.
It's not been announced.
Missed it, yeah. So it caught my eye because I was talking with Rona last week about the new CTO, and yeah, we have it. And I wish all the best for the guys. And I saw the on LinkedIn, I saw the message from one of them that they are joining Umbraco, and they were very happy about it. And yeah, we will see what it brings, but we can easily combine it with a memo released by Niels as an end-of-year memo for the team. And there were a lot of info about releasing a new headless version of Umbraco and V8 in 2018. So I hope that, and I think that it's all related. And it will be, I know, there will be drivers to accomplish this mission this year.
Yeah, it's good to see from Niels's memo that they've like how much they've grown this year and how much they've improved on a load of things. And I think, as you pointed out, Pete, like whilst the post is talking about how they're growing and they're bringing on new people, he still managed to squeeze the F-bomb into an internal memo. So it shows that they haven't really changed. They're just growing up a bit.
Change where change required, but still,
yeah.
I think embracing the core values, I think, is where we put it. Which is what we like about it, right? I'm looking forward to the headless CMS stuff, more for anything just to see what it actually finally looks like. I saw the talk in UK Fest, which was great last year, by the way, very well hosted. Crazy venue, but very well hosted. And it was interesting to see what that was like. Now, again, you can create headless right now. You don't need to wait for the headless CMS. The bit they're going to try and do is make it easy to host headless CMS in the cloud. And I know that last year that got quite a bit of falling out, mutterings going on. People saying it's terrible and the sellout and it's all about the money. And I'd just repeat what I said back then. It was just, let's just see what they're actually going to come up with, If you want headless, you can do it right now. Nothing's stopping you at all. But if you want headless in the cloud, that makes it easy for you, if you are not a .NET developer, to have a great CMS that you can create point and click and then have a data source that you could run headless. Then why shouldn't that be available as a click to install?
Absolutely. And a lot of the front end stuff, they made that like a Node.js based templating engine for headless. So you can just use Umbraco in Node, which is awesome. They're opening so many more avenues to people that just aren't familiar with the Umbraco CMS at all. So they get the pretty interface, they get all the benefits, nice editor experience, but don't have to worry about .NET or Windows or anything that they don't normally deal with. So I think
it makes it almost framework agnostic. It doesn't really matter what technology you're using. You're just getting JSON back. You hit a URL, you get JSON back. Perfect. That's the hard bit, tends to be creating all that bit, and puts a lot of people off starting projects. With Umbraco, you get all the flexibility and all the goodness, which we forget. It can all be done with point and click. You don't need to have Visual Studio open to get all that stuff. And I know they've got some extra bells and whistles that they're probably going to roll out to make that even easier. It was nice to see, but I was just amazed at the kickback from it. The fact that it was going to be a charged for thing on cloud. One of the ideas is might make it so stripped back, it's a much smaller footprint when they put it on the servers, so they can make it ridiculously cheaper in theory when they strip everything else out. For instance, the packages that are available to install will be really limited, I imagine. because it's just a back office, so you're not getting all the other bits and bats that we normally use. So as a result, they can almost whitelist which ones go on, which again means they have to reduce the amount of resources. So it'd be really good to see. I could see why it's the way they're trying to go. So I would look forward to seeing that one this year.
And meanwhile, it's not only about thinking about headless and even V8. The whole product is getting better, and all those steps, I think the cloud and making V7 better and better in each release was driving to be it all possible at the end. And what we also noted from this week was that Niels tweeted about changes. We have a download section in the Umbraco, and it's also something what probably has a lot in common with what we've said just in a couple minutes ago. So it all should be simplified. It all should be simpler for all the people who are not familiar with Visual Studio, who are not familiar with Webmatrix, I don't know, any other platform installers and tools and things like that. So it's getting there. It's getting to the place where people without our or any other knowledge can play with Umbraco, and we all need CMSs. We all need CMS, and we all build our own at the end, which is a stupid idea.
I think I've been banging on for years about you need to be able to make it so that someone can install it in a lunchtime, get hooked on it enough that they want to go home and play with it more in the evening. That's your magic 25 minutes that you've got. And I still, for a long time, never thought Umbraco was quite as easy to install. I think it's got a lot better, and I dislike the last couple of years where it's been just install Webmatrix and it works, which is the stop reply I seem to get when I don't install Umbraco that often these days. It's kind of like, when doing a package development or something, that's probably about the only time I really spin one up these days. And even I'm like, that still sometimes can just catch you out if you're not paying attention to it. And I've been working with it for 8-9 years, so it really ought to be download, install, and away you go as fast as possible. Which one of the things with cloud is you get the free start with that one to try and make that. Was it 14 days you get to try and boot it up? Which I think is removes a massive barrier. Someone can boot that up, burn some carbon, or mine some Bitcoin, whatever they want to do, and at least have a play for 14 days and then download it and they've got it. The only grumble with that is, in theory, you still need to know GitHub and all the other bits and bats. But you can point and click there and get used to the back office. I think with the new tour stuff they're doing, I think that's really going to springboard it. Because one of the complaints I had is, yes, when you get it installed, everyone's like, yeah, but it's just install it, it's fine, and then you boot it up and it's just a blank canvas. It's just like, and now what? Even when you install a start kit, it's like, and how did any of these things come about? What do I change? How do I get that field on there? So I think the tours will really springboard that to in that 25 minutes, you will get someone hooked and you'll get someone wanting to dig deeper. And it's the Ruby on Rails 3-minute video moment where you can, let's create an entire CMS in 3 minutes and then away they go. And if we can get someone to that and they can go, holy moly, look at me, I've managed to create a blog post, I've created a homepage, I've created a staff member page. Yes, we can use this. Boss, we need to invest in this, or I want to play with this more. Then that's the holy grail. That's where we need to be.
Yeah, we've all heard about this Mboga movement. So make the back office great again. And you've mentioned some of those points. And even the first dashboard, which we've seen after logging into Umbraco, was different and was not so descriptive for newcomers and people who are not familiar with Umbraco. And right now we have tours, we have a nice dashboard with additional information for admins and people who are looking for help, even from some Umbraco side or support at all. And we can spot there that there were some other changes, like I mentioned, like user section, dashboard, list view speakers. There were some of them, and properties page, of course. And Niels tweeted it and said that done stars are applied right now to those fixes, and what's next. So I think that all of us and all of people watching it and using Umbraco can improve this piece of software, because I've catch myself, for example, that if I were using it for a long time, I wasn't just looking on those starting pages at all. I was just jumping to the section where I want to do something, and when I want to create template, edit something, or create content. And people who are just opening Umbraco for the first time, like children in our school, they are just not knowing what they need to do and where to do it, and this tours and everything else bring in the latest versions are and definitely will be helpful for them.
Yeah, and Niels is also after feedback on what they can do next. So the purpose of that tweet was asking like, okay, we think we have made the back office great now, but how can we make it even greater this year? And there's quite a few people chimed in with some nice ideas. Like Kevin Gashevsky said that he wanted better dictionary management. Lee Keller has said, how about like Markdown? He'll put Markdown in property descriptions, so you can just kind of build up a more user-friendly messaging. Jeffrey came in with a few things. There's some really, really good ideas there. So I look forward to seeing how HQ embrace some of those over the next year. Maybe the community members will and submit some pull requests. I've seen some things in there which look quite appealing to have a stab at. So yeah.
I've got a list of bits and bats. Luckily, some of them have already been mentioned, which is great. But yeah, I have to go find the issues. I want to like link to the issues with them. So like, I need that one. So when I get 5 minutes, I'll actually finish that up and get that tweeted out today, hopefully.
Nice.
I have loads of crazy ideas about the stuff but like a lot of our sites are long. I'm sure you guys have as well. The long-term sites, and I find that when you are there's a different mindset and workflow for when you are building a site compared to maintaining a site long term. And some of the bits I'd like to see are things like developer notes for property types and even fields. A much better audit trail so we can see who updated what when, possibly even commit messages of some description when you're actually adding stuff into the back office and things, or something along those lines. I'd love to see the audit trail itself just get completely reworked because it's antiquated and doesn't really make much sense. I'd love to be able to see a diff of what's changed and when and by who in page far easier than we do. I've talked to Niels at that at UK Fest for quite a while actually, with some ideas that we had. They're all locked in his phone somewhere. So Niels, if you're watching, don't forget to check your notes. And they're all for longer term. You know, that's developer centric. Because a lot of the times you get this doc type, and you haven't a clue what it was really created for, whether it's even used or not. And then you have to go use something like Census or something else, or a bit of database digging of your own to try and find out, is that even used anymore, or why was it used, or how many content items have we got made of it? Whereas if there's a description of Brian made this on Monday, this is to enable this is because of this Trello card or this part of the spec, and it was created because as requested by Kim, then you go, all right, at least I have now an audit trail of where to go. And that'd be really handy when a site gets handed on as well. I mean, we all inherit each other's sites every now and then, and it'd be great to it's almost like having the commit history of the structure of the site, let alone the code of the site. I think that'd be a really handy thing. And then the other thing we're seeing a lot more of is the desire for content editors to be able to have a more global view over the content that they've got and what state it's in. I think there's a lot of work for doing that. That's probably a little bit too advanced for what we'll get in this version.
Yeah, I know a lot of the things you've mentioned, Pete. Like they're doing some improvements to the audit trail in 7, 8, and some of the things coming in V8 will also help around having a more global view of what happened and when, and doing those comparisons, because they've just with the new cache and everything, they'll be able to track content a little bit better, and they're kind of re-architecting all of that. So some of the stuff I've seen for V8 and also some of the stuff Niels showed off at UK Fest for V7, 8 looks quite promising in regards to that, like actually just keeping track of what's been going on in the CMS, what's changed. There's a package out there as well that lets you have like a more global audit trail view. But the idea of commit messages or kind of versioning your content to say that this version of the site we introduced a load of new templates or something and create pages for them. Maybe that's quite helpful. So yeah, I quite like the idea of Git style version history on CMS.
I can see it becoming a pain in the ass really quick. Don't get me wrong. But on the right side, even we've got a client, someone changed something on the homepage and we hadn't a clue who, because annoyingly, they're all using the same login, even though we told them not to. And so we're like, well, we can't tell you. I can tell you it changed 9 times on Monday. That's the best we can give you. So that sparked off there should be a way of writing this stuff down. And then if you just change your checkbox, do you really have to write a message as to why you're changing a checkbox? It turns out, yes, you do, if that checkbox is unpublished or something like that. So that was another one. I think Kevin raised that one, which is ability to not unpublish the homepage. would seem perfectly reasonable. I did actually have that happen on a very big site. It doesn't sound like a big problem. Like, yeah, so what? Someone's supposed to just republish it again. But if you've got 10,000 pages, it has to republish that page and all children. And in the meantime, your site is down and it's getting bombarded. And it's just chugging away while it tries to build everything. It took us about 6 hours to come back from that. And the client keeps ringing us. We're like, it's building. There's nothing you can do. Sorry. That was a pain in the bum.
Same with limiting number of occurrences of specific document types. And I was even thinking about package for doing it. And there are some cases where you just need one global configuration node, and knowing editors and knowing that they are still looking for new solutions, they will be playing around and they can break it if if our code is not ready for that. So it's worth a huge note about it.
There's the old adage that you can do that by just removing it. So you add it as it's available under the homepage and remove it, and it works. It's let's face it, it's a hack of a description of sorts, and it does work. But the danger is you then lose where that thing's meant to live. Just what I was saying, you lose the developer knowledge of. So then when let's say we go back 6 months later, what is this doc type that doesn't seem to live anywhere? It's difficult to find it. We created a package called doc type info, I think it is. So when you hover over a content item, it actually tells you what the doc type is and everything else while you're going through the tree for that very reason, because we were like, what is that? Where's that live? Yes, you can click in it. Yes, you can go to the tab. Yes, you can go look at it. But it was nice to have it just there and as you moused over stuff. Also showed like a number of content items of that type and all the other stuff. And it's that sort of level of detail you sometimes need. And again, if you do that hack of removing it from being allowed under the homepage, you lose that connection of what on earth this thing is. You have to then go hunt for it, which doable, but just makes life difficult and stops us doing the fun stuff. But then if I put my business hat on, that's what we're paid for, because we know about that quirky stuff. And if we just iron all this out, then we might be out of a job. I doubt it. AI will take over, be able to make all this for us.
There was a package actually demoed at UK Fest in the community space by Giuliano Dore, I think that's his name, called Umbraco restrictions, and it's a way of saying, okay, you can only have a single one of these nodes under this doc type. It's like XML config based, and you can say it's impossible to delete this certain node. It's quite powerful. I don't know if it's really had that much publicity, but I've not had to play with it. I do not know that one. I'll make sure there's a link to this in the description of the YouTube video for anyone that's interested in checking that out. But he demoed it at UK Fest, and it looked quite good.
And the trouble with some of these is, the trouble with some of these ones is they sound really simple. Like let's say don't allow unpublish. That would sound like, well, it's just an event, hook into unpublish, cancel, job done, right? How hard can it be? Well, you've got to store whether that thing, which content items are allowed to be unpublished or not. And again, we can fix that with a property type that we put on each doc type they're interested in. But then what about moving? Am I allowed to move the homepage? Do I want to cancel that too? What about can I put it in the recycle bin, or can I delete it? There's all sorts of different things, and as usual, we had this discussion only last week about this week when we come back this week. We talked about caching. As developers, we get focused on just a task, and the card might be this page is running a bit slow, and we look at it. We'll add the caching in. We might not necessarily look into why it's going slow. We might just look at, just add some caching, because logically that's the fastest way of doing it. And then we totally forget the next step, which is how do we refresh the cache? What do we do when the content underneath it is done? And it's easy to overlook that bit, because then a job that sounds really simple, which is can you make that site a bit faster, add some caching, is can you add some caching and can you add some events so that when other stuff that's related to it gets related, it clears the cache and on it goes. And they're the bits that you easily forget. And so some of these features, when we think of them like, yeah, you should totally not be allowed to delete something, there's actually more to it when you do it. And I think nearly all the features, when a lot of people go, why the hell doesn't Umbraco do this most basic of thing? I can't believe this, call yourself a real CMS. And then when you start pulling on the thread and you go, well, actually, if we do that, then it does this and it'll tell to that. And we'll do it in V8 because there's just too much crap to sort out, and we'll sort it out later. And for some reason, of late, I feel like I'm almost the champion of Umbraco at the minute, where I keep saying, hang on, they're doing great, they're doing wonderful, because they are. Because a lot of people are still going, why the hell haven't they sorted out my pull request? Or so it's because they're going through flux and transition. That email that Neil sent was great to see, because actually, midway through last year, I too was feeling And then I went to Code Garden, I went to the Gold Partner Summit. I went with like a raft of just anger I was going to pour out, and I didn't really need to, because we had a good face-to-face, and we sorted out a lot of stuff, and I became more fired up from Code Garden than I've ever been in Umbraco land, and that's continued. I'm still fired up for the future of it and where it's going. And 2018, bring it on. They do fantastic work. They're pumping some good stuff out. They've got some great team on them, and the way they're focusing on stuff is fantastic. I'm quite excited for it. So I don't know how we got onto that, but yay, go team. So it's good stuff. So don't get grumpy just because your little pet feature that you want is almost like held off, because 9 times out of 10, there's a lot more scaffolding under the hood that you've got to think about.
Yeah.
And talking a lot of other people had, go Callum.
I was going to say, talking of Umbraco HQ doing great stuff, there's been quite a few people in the community doing some great stuff over Christmas, especially. So we just wanted to mention a couple of packages that have been released or updated recently. Slimzy V2.0 beta 3 is out. Try it out. Jevon's been pushing people to give that one a go. Also, Matt Brailsford finally dropped Fluidity.
Oh, that was mean.
What?
It's finally?
He's been teasing us for months with it.
Oh, well, all right. Yeah, I'll give you that one. Look at that. Yeah, he has been teasing.
And not everyone was included in the beta. So, yeah, the V1 is released right now.
It is pressure of his own making, so we can't complain about it. Like you say, he has been teasing us about it.
Yeah. So that's released. I'm very keen to have a play with it. I've used UI-matic before, which it's kind of loosely based around, but it's a nice fluid API to build properties and custom sections and whatever you want in the back office, which is very, very interesting. Yeah, I look forward to having a look at that. Maybe we can get Matt on to give us a demo in the coming weeks. That would be lovely.
That would be great. That would be great.
I'm sure he'll be up for that. Might even trim his beard. That makes it sound like he never trims his beard. His beard is beautifully coiffured at all times.
Yeah. And the other news which we wanted to bring, and which is a part of topic which we want to discuss with you, Pete, is Skrift articles. And we had a new issue released during this period, and it's number 33. And it has 2 articles about creating custom editors for the Umbraco grid by Anders Bjerner, and also about an article by Janae Cram about running Microsoft Build with Grunt. And those both topics are really interesting. And we've been using the Grunt and Gulp to create Umbraco packages. So I think that this is a really powerful toy, and it was always something new for me when I was thinking about front-end toys. But it's so powerful that I think that a lot of people should check how to do stuff with it. And it's not only for building front-end anymore.
There's a bunch of tools out there that, as .NET devs, we tend to shut ourselves off from, and I don't understand why. I used to tease people up when I did presentations. If it wasn't available in Visual Studio, we weren't interested in it. And you mention Node to people, and they just shudder and go, "Whoa, that's for other people." But it's amazing. All Node is basically like your .NET runtime, and then you can build whatever you want on top of it. So you install Node, and then you start installing some of these other amazing tools that we've got. Gulp and Grunt. I don't have a dog in either fight for that one. I don't really care which one you use, as long as they both do a job. They're just minor little script runners, really, is the only way of looking at them. We use Webpack a lot for all our JavaScript development stuff. A lot of people grumble about the churn. As you know, I do a lot of React stuff, and unfortunately, to do React well in production mode, at least, you need a lot of these developer tools to get it working the way it should do, and it puts a lot of people off. But it shouldn't, because they're amazing tools, and they're there to fix problems. The danger is, and the balancing act is, to make sure you're fixing problems that you need to fix, as opposed to fixing problems that companies the size of Facebook need to fix. They deal on an element of scale, an element of throughput that we'll never have, and we don't necessarily need all the tools that they use. So choose wisely. But they just make life. The finished end result is just so much better when you use some of these tools. It's great.
Microsoft are embracing them as well. So Visual Studio's got support for Grunt now out of the box. More and more JavaScript libraries. They've got Webpack support as well, I think, or I saw it. Maybe it's coming. But they're slowly embracing that this is kind of the new way of working. We don't necessarily all use NuGet to pull down our JavaScript dependencies. We actually install, let's say, Bootstrap through Node Package Manager or something else. So it's good to see companies are finally accepting that actually this is JavaScript task runners and things is the modern way of working. They're not evil. They're not just for front end devs or not scary to. They shouldn't be scary to everyone. Yeah,
it's a lovely time to be as well. I mean, we're having the crazy thing with JavaScript is you just need a browser and Notepad to use JavaScript. You don't really need to do anything else, and that obviously might not be true now. But when my boy's old enough, I can give him just those two things, and he can write code that runs. And that was its amazing power. That's why it's effectively taken over programming language territory, because it's that wonderful word ubiquitous. It is everywhere. You don't need much to get it up and running, and that is why it's so ridiculously powerful. And we've got so many brains on it. The only trouble is that it's a bit like the package repository at the minute, where someone will release a new package and then you have that thing going, how's this any different to this other package from a year ago? There's just too many that people can't find them. So a lot of these new tools are coming out, which are either opinionated. We've got one called Rollup, which kind of does what Webpack does, but doesn't. It squashes all your code into one bundle, and that's it. Which sounds like what Webpack does, which is to squash all your stuff into one bundle. But Webpack does it so that you can keep adding and removing things if you want to. Rollup just does it once. That's it. To Rollups, if you're doing a library, you would roll it up into a library, and then you've only got one file to distribute. Whereas Webpack, you can still have it all split up, and it would then merge it in as and when required. A rough pencil sketch of how it roughly works. But people rebelled against Rollup when it came out. It's like, why have we got another one? But they've solved different problems slightly differently. And also, we also have the usual thing about JavaScript churn. Another reason everyone avoids JavaScript land as much as possible or thinks it's poison. Again, it just happens because you've got so many more brains on it than we have in .NET land that it just moves so ridiculously fast. We used to be stuck with Microsoft releasing a new framework before we could do anything. In JavaScript land, they're writing their own transpilers, which are allowing them to use features that aren't even been signed off yet. So there's just so much movement going on there. Webpack is on Webpack 4, for instance. They skipped Webpack 3. They decided they were just going to scrap it and start again. And those sort of things make it sound bad, but Webpack 4 now is fantastic. We've been using 2 for a while, been using 1 a lot, and they're just getting faster and faster and faster. Why wouldn't you want to keep following that? And it's not very difficult to keep doing. 9 times out of 10, they give you an upgrade path of some way or shape. It's a fun place to be. Is it confusing? Yes. Is it frustrating sometimes? God, yes. But that's why we like coding, right? So stick at it, and then you get the rewards at the end.
This is our life. We need to discover and play with new stuff, and there is a lot of jokes about new JavaScript frameworks released every day. So let's observe the movement, and let's use the best ones, I think. And hopefully, during this year, I want to increase my skills in using those tools combined with what we are doing in .NET World. And I want to make a step out of .NET World to play more with different tools and languages also. And Pete, speaking about it, you've wrote a great article for Skrift in December. It was about your addiction and avoiding addiction in coding. So maybe if you can tell us a couple words about it to sum up this episode, and maybe add some, compare it with your plans for 2018, and maybe your New Year's resolution or anything else which you, I don't know, noted or planning to note to do this year. It will be great.
Yeah, so but the article was more about, well, we just had Christmas. How many people coded over Christmas, for instance? Probably all of us sat down with a laptop and had a little bit of quiet time writing something out. I didn't. I wanted to. Boy, did I want to. I had some great ideas. And that was the difference, is I sat down and I did jigsaws and I played Lego with my boy, and I talked with the family. I got them to play games, played Pandemic, something I never thought I'd get my family to play. And then at the end of it, they all went, this is brilliant. But at the start of it, obviously, it looks terrifying. But I got to enjoy time, and in that time, my subconscious is chugging away and letting me do what I want to do. And I've got a pad of paper next to me with about 10 different new ideas for packages, or pull requests, or something else I can work on, or products, or fixes for websites that I wouldn't have had if I'm just constantly at the coalface chugging away. That's what a vacation's about. That's what a holiday's about. It's getting away from it. It's not about, brilliant, now I have time to write code I want to write, which I get, don't get me wrong. But it's about, the article was about raising why are we driven to do that. And one of the reasons that we suspect we do is this thing called dopamine, which is a drug that is basically a reward drug. It gets released in your system when you do something that moves you forward, or you discover something, or you get better at something. It's also like the learning drug. When you learn, dopamine gets released when you feel like you've achieved something. Very powerful drug, and it basically allows us to exist and do what we do. But it's also a dangerous drug. It's the same drug that gets released from cocaine usage, for instance. It's the drug of gambling addiction. It's a drug of alcoholism. So you've got to kind of balance it out. And when I read about it, and the reason I read about it is I had a tough time a couple of years ago. Just basically my brain was just getting too busy. I had all these ideas I wanted to do, no time. I was getting very frustrated. And I wasn't being a very happy person. So I started reading about it. I read about dopamine and the kind of stuff it could do. And I in the case that I read about it, it wasn't about coding. It was about don't do the things that they feel like you want to do them, but are you doing them for the right reason? And that struck a chord in me. It's like coding until 4 a.m. Is that really what I want to do? Or is it because I'm constantly getting a dopamine hit and it's strong enough that I will actually push off sleep, or going to bed and cuddling my wife, or knowing in the morning I need to be fresh because my boys could be waking up at 7:30. It's 4 a.m. Well, I'm going to get 3 hours sleep if I'm lucky. I'm going to go to bed with my brain rattling about for loops. I'm not really going to get any good sleep, and tomorrow's rubbish. Or do I go, no, I'm going to put some time away to do that properly, when I can actually do it properly, and I'm going to enjoy my boy this evening. I'm going to go to bed at a decent hour. I'm going to wake up in the morning. I might even read a book and put some new knowledge in my head. Still get dopamine release for doing that. I'm reading one about the Big Bang at the minute, which is just mind-blowingly wonderful. Certainly puts things in perspective. And I get dopamine hit just from reading that, because I'm learning and it's matching up with other bits of knowledge from other books I've read. And I go, oh, that's how that works. Right, now I get microwave background radiation. And it's nice, so this dopamine hit, it's available all the time. And the point of my article was, be aware when you're choosing to take that hit. So if you're coding all the time, I've got a friend of mine who came around to my house, and he's at my house, visiting my house with his family, and he must have opened his laptop 6 times. Because he thought of something, a new test he could write or something else. And I had to raise with him, are you sure you're not mildly addicted to coding? And he did see it some years ago. And it's a lovely thing that we do. It's a very rewarding thing that we do. I'm very honored that I get to code for a living. I enjoy it. I treat it as a craft. But I'm aware that how dangerous it can be, that actually it is my body, chemistry is tricking me into enjoying doing this thing. And so it's just being aware, am I doing this for the right reason? Am I addicted to this? Which is not a bad thing, because we actually enjoy doing it. But just being aware that when I choose to do it, I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do, rather than could this time be better spent doing something else that gives you either another kick or gives you a rest from getting a kick. I do a lot of woodwork at the minute, for instance, completely away from moving electrons around, as I describe it to my friends. What do you do all day? I move electrons around. You can't see anything I do. Chances are it will be in the bin in 18 months. Do you really need to buy a credit card from a microsite? No. Well, you'll probably never see some of my work then. But when they go in the shed, they go, that's nice. How do you make that? Oh, well, I did this, and then I did a carbon fiber this, and then and that's something physical I can see, and I enjoy that, and I get a kick from both those things. And the kick from my woodworking, I get every time someone sees something or comments on it, or I can do something better with it. With my code, it's really, well, I'm the only one really seeing it or appreciating it. So it's very private. Dopamine hit, as it were. So I have to keep chasing it. So I have to keep finding bugs. I have to keep. You get to the point then where you're enjoying. What's the word? You're enjoying creating crisis almost. How hot is it when the website goes down? You're the only one who looks after that code base. You're like, all over this? Yeah, let's do this. That's a massive dopamine hit. Huge, great big reward when you get that website back up. And the client sends you the Slack messages. Well done, great work. Yeah, that's just getting a hit. But it feels good because it's there for a reason. I'm not saying you should ignore it or avoid it, but just be aware that you've been driven by the right thing.
So it is your plan for New Year to keep it doing, because all of us probably cut ourselves in this place, and we're tired of doing things. And right now, for me, for example, I'm picking kind of idols. And for me, more impressive is if someone will do their work in 7 hours and do ton of amazing stuff and have time to answer questions, to tweet about something and create a package and go back to house and not do anything, rather than people sitting to 4 a.m. and writing code. It's not impressing me anymore. I was there. I was doing it, and I know how how tired it can be and where it can drive us. And right now, as I said, productive and maybe smart usage of time is something what is impressing me, and I want to do this in my job, and I'm doing it during my life, because time is the only thing which we can't buy yet.
It's a similar thing to my New Year's resolution, or one of my New Year's resolutions, which is to try and give back to open source a bit more, but in a really manageable way. So I've set myself a challenge of doing 1 pull request every week for the year. So that's 52 pull requests in the year. But the idea is that they are planned in advance. So I'm not sitting there like scratching around trying to find something to do. I've got a list of small, manageable things that I think it may be a one-line fix. And it's just my way of giving back. So I get my dopamine hit in one go, once a week. And the rest of the time, I kind of focus on doing all the other stuff that I should be doing outside of work that's not work. So, it's kind of, similar.
Not work's really, I mean, I'm a boss, right? I should be, classically, I should be, you're on work all the time. I own you. You've answered my emails at 4 a.m, right? That's how you're meant to be, apparently. I'm not. We have very nice hours. We don't start till 9:30. We finish at 5:30. We start at 9:30 on purpose, because I used to start at a place where you had to be there for 8. Try getting to Leeds 8 o'clock on the trains and everything, it used to be horrible. So I'd be rocking at 9, maybe, depending on how bad the motorway was, and then getting told off that I was always late. But it's like, I can't really. So you should set off earlier. So I set off at like 6 a.m. already. What do you want me to do? So we came up with commuter-friendly hours, and we're very keen that when you go home, it's home. When 5:30 strikes, if someone's in the middle of something, I say it's home time, pack up. If it's the weekend, we normally knock off a little bit earlier. I'm a big fan of the Danish way of working. They work less hours. They tend to nearly always have Friday afternoon off, if not the whole day, some of them. But their way of tackling it is they go in, I think they work like a 6-hour day, and they just work out flat out, because they know they've only got 6 hours to do it in. And then they go home, and they don't work after that. Most of them. That's what we're meant to do anyway.
Spend time with families.
Yeah, because that's what life's about. We always had a line here. We spend more time, in England anyway, with our workmates than we do with our family, awake hours. And that's kind of scandalous in a way. So they have to be quality, and that's what's always driven me with my company is this place has to be worthwhile to not be hanging out with your friends and your family. So we try and look after you the best we can, and we're trying to be friends. Well, we are friends. Heck, I've been Steve's best man for this very reason. He was like, well, you know me better than anyone else because we hang out together. We sat next to each other 8 hours a day. So it was a great honor and great fun. That's the mindset. That's where you want to be. But then you go home, you clock off. I'm not slacking people. I'm not messaging people. If I do, we've all got out of hours on purpose. So it says I'm not going to get this Slack. I'm not here. It's not a requirement. If we really need you, we'll ring you. But if we ring you, it's because we really need you, or we're in the pub and we want you to come visit us or whatever. So that tends to be the way it is. But not a lot of people live in that bubble. And a lot of people, the personal projection that a lot of people are doing on the internet is that you have to be switched on all the time. You have to have a YouTube channel. You have to be posting blog posts like 4 times a week, working on 17 open source things that thing, owns 4 of them yourself that you just started up over the weekend, and they're amazing. And go to all these conferences a bit. It's just not possible. You're either going to burn out, which everyone says, and like I said, a couple of years ago, I was pretty much there. So you're either going to burn out, or you're going to just implode, or you're finally going to meet a girl and have a kid. There's things change. I'm a parent now. I have a much better driver for what I want to spend my time with at home. It's a massive bucket of Lego and a 6-year-old. And I'd much rather do that than a pull request or whatever we used to do. But then back in my earlier time, my wife was doing a degree in the evenings, and so she'd be, when it was just me and her, she'd be at her desk doing some reading. I had a couple of hours to kill until the 9 o'clock cutoff when we decided we'd sit down and spend some time together. So I'd answer forum posts, or I'd work out how can I document XSLT and stuff like that. There's a famous one where I said, I've got to go, Top Gear's just started. Because that was a cutoff. I had 2 hours to do it, and I noodled for 2 hours and then released it. That's manageable. That's fine. But now life's changed, and now I've got to I got to move on with it as a result. So it's no problem coding if you're happy doing it.
The problem is if you are working from home, you need to have an additional separate set of rules. But for me, it's a lot easier since I have my little baby, because right now, even before 5, she's walking through through this magic door and just knocking and saying, "Daddy, Daddy," it's end of the work, and no more query after that. I'm not available anywhere. Usually, of course, if I don't want to, I'm not checking even Slack notifications or emails. But yeah, it's a separation of things. And work-life balance was something impossible for me when I was running my own company a couple of years ago. And the work culture, as you've mentioned, the company culture is also very important. And in Congress as well, we don't have and I don't know, obligatory to work after hours. We're not doing after hours. We're not working after hours and during the weekends. So if we want to do anything after work, it's up to us. And I catch myself in this place that I don't want to do more after work. So I need to do what's most important for me during my work. So I treat my work as something what I really want to do. And if I won't be willing to do this anymore, probably I will switch work. But right now I'm into it. I like it, and let's keep it this way, I think. For all of us.
Like I say, we're quite lucky that our hobby is something that we actually enjoy doing for a living as well. Yeah. But my point in the article, trying to go full circle, was just be aware that it's a perfect career or activity to effectively make us just drug addicts, which sounds a bit heavy, doesn't it? But just be mindful of your choice of when you code and what you code. By all means, code is wonderfully rewarding. Just don't let it rule your life. So for New Year's, like for Christmas, I'm amazed that people who open their laptop over Christmas. I mean, you really must hate your family, or whatever else. I'm amazed at people who check their inbox just before they go to bed. What on earth are you going to do at 11 o'clock at night that you could possibly change something before 9 o'clock when the client comes in the morning? Absolutely nothing. So don't bother. You're just going to go to bed with it chugging around your head. Slack, just delete it off your phone. I deleted Twitter. I deleted Facebook off my phone for the same reason. I fortunately am highly addicted to Twitter. I do the pull down refresh thing, even though I rail against it. It's one of the things I'm trying to tackle. It's one of the things that sparked the article. I thought, why am I addicted to just doing this? I forgot my phone today. I went to the toilet. I'm in and out of the toilet. Sorry to get personal. In and out of the toilet in less than a minute. Normally, when I'm in there 10 minutes. I'll just catch up on whether he's nuked everyone yet or not. And it's crazy. God knows what kind of germs are on my phone. But it's one of the things I'm trying to fix because I want to be conscious and mindful of the time on the planet and how I spend it. And I think that's one of the things I've always tried to get across to people since I've become aware of it myself is don't let this thing run you run it. It's all too easy to think. I haven't got an open source project that is amazing that's got 1 million downloads. I'm a failure. It's like, on the contrary. We know a man who's got an open source project with 1 million downloads who lives in Australia, Mr. James South. And he's doing wonders, but equally he's not getting the rewards any of us think he deserves because he does a massive sacrifice to get some of that stuff done. But he's addicted to code. He loves doing it, and he's very good at it. But he probably deserves a fortune as far as I'm concerned. But we don't do. That comes around nicely to one of the other New Year's resolutions we're trying to do, which is to give a little bit back. You're giving pull requests back. We're going to try and fund some more of the open source stuff that we're doing. We already fund Umbraco through goal partnership and training, which we try and do, and as much promotion and going around and doing talks as we can, as do you guys. And we're trying to go at the Umco thing. We're going to fund that this year as well, and we're going to try and give a bit of money to James South as well because we like all that stuff that they do. But at the end of the day, I'm only a small shop. I can't. Yes, I earn a living and I do what I do, and I try and give back as much as I can, but I can't. If I give it all away, my accountant will leave me because I won't have any money, and B, I won't be able to pay the mortgage. So, but it's a little something to give back. And like you, we're going to try and do. I'm doing it in company, so I'm giving company time to do pull requests to try and give a little bit something back as well. Because it's good for my team. I'm trying to raise my team so that they can do pull requests. They get to feel good about it. Rather than do it in the evenings, doing a dirty pull request, it's like, well, it's Thursday, Friday. You are on. Get that pull request sorted. Get it in, feel good about yourself, learn about the code base a bit more. That's just a good thing to do.
Yeah, that sounds great. And yeah, each company should do it, I think. And if you are a company owner, you're watching us, just do it for your employees, and you will see the results. We have one Friday per month, which is a Freedom Friday, and it's not stopping any of our productivity for clients' work, and even boosting it. And that's the result of doing it. I think that we need to sum up. We are 16 minutes over time. But Pete, you are a great guest, so we will forgive you.
A chatty guest.
It was great to have you. And we had one more announcement about the tickets going on sale for UDEF Fest. It's on the 14th of January.
They're on sale. They're on sale.
Oh.
They're on sale right now, but the
Callum, you're going, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm speaking. So
envious.
Yeah, 2-week holiday and then talking at UDEF.
You can send a huge high five for James South from all of us.
Yes, I'll give James South a massive umbraCoffee.
Hack five.
Yes, high five. So yeah, tickets are on sale right now for UDEF. The early bird tickets are available until the 14th of January. After that, it's the full price tickets.
Okay.
I'm not going this year. I was going to go.
Oh.
I just couldn't. Well, it's a long way to go, so I was going to go and take the whole family. Then you start pricing it up. But then enough details wasn't out early enough for me to smooth the wife over and say, it's all in hand. Everything's fine. She's like, no, it's too many unknowns. Too many unknowns. We're not going. So I'm going fat bike.
That's also why we've created this umbraCoffee.com site. We want to have everything in place, every detail which is about place and date and, I don't know, schedule ahead for everyone to plan ahead. And
that's a great idea.
It will be helpful for all of us and for you too. So I believe that we'll have a lot of opportunities to meet during the year. And as a nice wrap up, I think that we just need to say Happy New Year for everyone.
Happy New Year.
And we'll see each other on the next umbraCoffee next week, right?
Yes.
So thank you, Pete, very much once again. And yeah, see you.
See you around.
See you later.